Ripple just unlocked Europe, what its MiCA approval means for XRP. On July 6, 2026, Ripple announced that it had received full authorization as a crypto asset service provider under the European Union's Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation, better known as MiCA. The authorization was granted in Luxembourg by the country's financial regulator, the Commission de Surveillance du Secteur Financier, or CSSF. According to Ripple, this approval allows its regulated crypto asset services to be offered across the European Economic Area. That gives Ripple a clearer route to serve eligible banks, payment companies, fintech firms, and businesses throughout Europe under one harmonized regulatory framework. This is an important development, but it is also easy to misunderstand. Europe did not approve XRP as an investment. European banks are not being forced to use XRP, and the authorization does not guarantee that XRP's price will rise. What Ripple received is permission to provide specific regulated crypto services while remaining subject to MiCA's rules and ongoing supervision. MiCA was created to establish common rules for crypto assets and crypto service providers across the European Union. Before MiCA, companies often had to deal with different national requirements from one country to another. Under the new framework, a properly authorized provider can offer its approved services across participating European markets through a process often described as passporting. For Ripple, Luxembourg now acts as the regulatory base for this part of its European operation. Ripple announced preliminary MiCA approval in June 2026 before confirming full authorization on July 6th. The MiCA authorization also complements Ripple's electronic money institution license, which it received from Luxembourg's CSSF in February 2026. These approvals cover different parts of the business. The electronic money license supports regulated payment and electronic money activity, while the MiCA authorization covers regulated crypto asset services. That combination is relevant because a cross-border payment can involve both traditional currency and digital assets. A transaction might begin in euros, move through a digital asset, and then be delivered to the recipient in another currency. Serving regulated institutions across that process can require permission for both the traditional payment side and the crypto side. So what does any of this mean for XRP? XRP can be used as a bridge asset. In a simplified example, a payment provider could convert euros into XRP, transfer the XRP, and then convert it into the destination currency. The goal is to move value quickly without requiring an institution to keep large amounts of money pre-funded in every country where it operates. That can improve capital efficiency, but XRP is not the only option available within Ripple's broader payments infrastructure. Depending on the customer, currency corridor, available liquidity, and regulatory requirements, a transaction could use XRP, a stablecoin such as RLUSD, or traditional fiat payment rails. This distinction is essential. Ripple gaining regulatory access in Europe does not mean that every Ripple payment in Europe will use XRP. The clearest potential benefit for XRP is expanded opportunity. Ripple can now market regulated services across a large regional economy with a more consistent compliance structure. For banks and corporations, licensing can remove one of the biggest barriers to working with a crypto payments provider. Institutions usually require legal reviews, anti-money laundering controls, cybersecurity assessments, custody standards, risk management, and regulatory oversight before adopting new infrastructure. MiCA authorization does not eliminate those requirements, but it gives Ripple a formal framework in which those discussions can take place. If Ripple converts this authorization into new customers and real payment volume, XRP could benefit in the corridors where customers choose XRP as the bridge asset. Higher payment activity could create more demand for XRP liquidity and encourage market makers to support deeper XRP trading pairs against the euro and other currencies. Deeper liquidity matters because large transactions can create slippage when there are not enough buyers and sellers near the current market price. Better liquidity can make XRP more practical for institutions moving larger amounts of value. However, this outcome is not automatic. A license creates access, it does not create customers. Ripple still has to win contracts, complete integrations, compete on cost and reliability, and convince institutions that its system is better than existing alternatives. Ripple also faces competition from banks, stablecoin networks, payment processors, and other regulated blockchain companies. MiCA approval allows Ripple to participate more fully in the European market, but it does not guarantee market share. Stablecoins may also be preferred for some transactions. A regulated business may favor a stablecoin because its value is designed to remain close to a national currency. That can simplify accounting and reduce short-term price risk. XRP may be more useful when fast bridging between different currencies or assets is needed and sufficient liquidity is available. The most appropriate asset can vary from one payment route to another. There are also continuing regulatory obligations. MiCA authorization requires Ripple to maintain applicable governance, safeguarding, compliance, risk management, and operational standards. The company remains supervised, and the authorization can be subject to regulatory conditions and enforcement. For XRP investors, the next stage should be measured through actual results rather than headlines. The first thing to watch is customer adoption. New agreements with European banks, payment providers, fintech companies, or corporations would show that Ripple is converting regulatory approval into commercial activity. The second thing to watch is payment volume. A license becomes economically meaningful when it produces real transactions across new or expanded payment corridors. The third and most important XRP-specific question is which asset is being used. Ripple payments may grow while using a combination of XRP, RLUSD, other stablecoins, and fiat currency. Investors should not assume that every Ripple customer or every payment processed by Ripple creates direct demand for XRP. The fourth thing to watch is liquidity. Stronger XRP to euro markets, tighter spreads, and deeper order books could make XRP more useful for larger institutional payments. The fifth thing to watch is activity on the XRP ledger itself. Growth in payments, stablecoins, tokenized assets, custody, and other institutional applications could strengthen the network's overall role. However, transaction counts alone do not prove economic adoption. The size, purpose, and quality of the activity matter. The main advantage of Ripple's MiCA authorization is regulatory reach. It gives the company a compliant foundation from which to offer crypto asset services across the European Economic Area. The main limitation is that regulatory reach does not guarantee XRP usage. The impact on XRP depends on whether Ripple gains customers, whether those customers generate meaningful volume, and whether XRP is selected instead of another settlement asset. The most accurate conclusion is that Ripple has opened a major door in Europe. The approval improves its ability to compete for institutional payments and crypto-related business across the region. For XRP, that creates a larger potential market and more opportunities to be used as a bridge asset. But opportunity is not the same as confirmed demand. The real evidence will come from new customers, live payment corridors, rising transaction volume, deeper liquidity, and clear proof that XRP is being used inside those flows. The license is the starting point. What matters now is how much business Ripple brings through that door, and how often XRP is actually part of the transaction. This video is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice. XRP and other crypto assets can be highly volatile. Always conduct your own research before making an investment decision.